This is Arkies in the Beltway, your look at national politics and the Arkansans influencing the discussions. I'm Alex Thomas, Washington correspondent for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, reporting from the nation's capital. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Arkies in the Beltway for the week of December 22nd, 2024. 'Twas the week before Christmas, and in the Senate and House, it seemed like everyone was stirring. The Senate and House of Representatives had a busy week of legislative business to mark an end to the 118th Congress, the most pressing issue of the week, approving a stopgap funding package funding the government into the new year, avoiding a government shutdown in the process. All four of Arkansas's House members and both senators supported the package at the end of last week. Passage of the stopgap funding legislation followed a tumultuous 48-hour period when House Republicans walked away from a bipartisan agreement. Their decision stemmed from opposition to that plan from President-elect Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk. It took the House 3 tries to pass a measure with enough support from the Republican majority as well as Democratic members. Representative Steve Womack of Rogers describes those 48 hours in this way.
Chaotic, sometimes confusing, revealing, I would say, and hopefully it does not foretell what we're going to face beginning on January 3rd.
January 3rd is when the new Congress begins, and Republicans take control of both chambers of Congress. House Republicans have controlled Congress's lower chamber for the last 2 years. Senate Democrats have held the majority in the opposing chamber. The stopgap package includes more than $100 billion in disaster aid, $10 billion in economic assistance for farmers, and a one-year extension of the Farm Bill. Trump made a last-minute push for increasing the debt ceiling, that language not included in the final bill. House Republicans plan to address the matter in the new year. Returning to that $10 billion in economic assistance to farmers, Senator John Boozman of Rogers says that funding is crucial, especially as producers deal with mounting economic pressure.
Arkansas farmers throughout the country are really in serious shape in the sense that their input costs are so high. And when they go to sell their crops, they're not covering what it costs to actually put the crop in the ground and to harvest it and sell it.
Boozman is the top Republican on the Senate Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee. He and other lawmakers pushed for $15 billion in assistance before agreeing on the $10 billion amount.
On the other side, we got a little bit more disaster aid than we thought we would be able to get. So that was helpful.
Jared Yates is the executive vice president of the Arkansas Farm Bureau. He says the $10 billion is better than no economic assistance, especially as farmers head into a new crop season.
They're meeting with their bankers now, trying to plan for the next planting season, and they're holding loans from last year's crop and trying to get new loans to operate going forward, and from a financial banking standpoint, that's pretty risky.
Representative Frenchel of Little Rock understands the pressures facing both farmers and financial institutions. The former banker oversaw Delta Trust in banking before entering public office.
If a farm operation has 3 bad years in a row and has what's referred to as carryover debt, not only from the bank, but also from a fertilizer company or from a seed company, it can cause their collapse. The farm financing can fail. This roughly $10 billion was for emergency commodity funding for farm operations that have had that kind of a severe history of loss in recent years.
The next matter to address, a new multi-year farm bill authorizing nutrition, rural development, and agriculture programs. The current Congress failed to meet deadlines in the last 2 Septembers to pass a new legislative package. Boozman will have a leading role in putting that legislation together. He will serve as the Senate Agriculture Committee chair starting in the new year thanks to Republicans having the majority in the Senate. Representative Rick Crawford of Jonesboro serves on the House Agriculture Committee. He is optimistic about Congress's chances of getting a new farm bill done, with Republicans controlling both chambers.
We're in a position to do more, put more farm in the Farm Bill, and that's what was lacking in the previous version.
The House Agriculture Committee did pass the Farm Bill proposal back in May, but the full House never considered that legislation. Democrats and Republicans remain split over spending on the Farm Bill's nutrition and conservation programs. Representative Bruce Westerman securing a major legislative win in the final days of this congressional session. The Senate passed a comprehensive outdoor recreation package, the Explore Act, following the House's footsteps. The lower chamber passed the legislation back in April. The Explore Act calls for expanding recreational opportunities on public lands and waterways through multiple actions. This includes new bike trails and restoring overnight camping areas. Westerman led a bipartisan group of lawmakers in pushing the House measure. The Hot Springs congressman chairs the House Natural Resources Committee, which has jurisdiction over public lands.
This isn't a little, end of the year land transfer bill or something. This is a big outdoor recreation bill that's got many pieces of legislation from a lot of different members in the House and the Senate.
The Senate had a similar measure, the America's Outdoor Recreation Act. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin says there were talks between senators and House members, with both sides focused on resolving the differences between the two bills.
We have had bipartisan, bicameral agreement on the negotiated text for more than 6 months. We've tried for months to get that passed, but have been blocked along the way. This late in December, we are simply out of runway. Time is running out on us.
Manchin in the Senate allowing the House bill to pass through unanimous consent, with an understanding the next Congress will address the compromise between the two chambers. One Explore Act provision affecting Arkansas will allow a return of overnight camping in the Albert Pike Recreation Area. People have not been allowed to camp in this space since June 2010, when 20 people died amid flash flooding. The Senate also agreeing with the House on the Water Resources Development Act. The biennial package authorizes U.S. Army Corps of Engineer projects and research. Much like the House's vote earlier this month, the Senate approved the measure in overwhelming bipartisan fashion. The final vote, 97-1. The entire Arkansas delegation backed the Water Resources Development Act. Delaware Senator Tom Carper leads the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. The Democrat spoke last Thursday on the Senate floor in favor of the measure.
I hear almost every day. I travel back and forth on a train from Delaware to Washington, talk to people coming and going. And one of the things I hear the most is, why can't you guys ever work together and get stuff done in Washington, in the House and in the Senate? This legislation is living proof that we can do that and we can do it well.
Senator Bozeman serves on that same Senate committee. Representatives Crawford and Westerman serve on the House counterpart, the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. This year's measure calls for expediting a study on the water supply in Beaver Lake, located in northwest Arkansas, and modifying a project expanding Osceola Harbor along the Mississippi River, improving navigation for barge traffic. Continuing our wrap-up of Congress's final week, the Senate passed Congress's annual defense measure. The National Defense Authorization Act includes several provisions impacting Arkansas, including the approval of funding for a new training center at Ebbing Air National Guard Base in Fort Smith, and consent for the state to develop or sell the former Army-Navy Hospital in Hot Springs. A controversial provision of the bill bans coverage of gender-affirming care for transgender children of service members. Both Senators Bozeman and Cotton supported the measure. The House passed the National Defense Authorization Act earlier this month. Another bill awaiting President Joe Biden's signature, legislation dedicating the Kingsland Post Office to honor Johnny Cash. Westerman led the effort to rename the post office after the country music legend and Arkansas native. The House approved the measure back in June by ways of a voice vote, with the Senate passing the bill last Thursday through unanimous consent. Cash was born in Kingsland in February 1932, although he spent most of his childhood in Mississippi County in the community of Dyce. His legacy is immortalized on Capitol Hill with a bronze statue. Arkansans joined congressional leaders in unveiling that statue back in September. Cash is the first musician to be recognized in the National Statuary Hall collection of sculptures recognizing people from all 50 states. A statue honoring civil rights leader Daisy Bates was placed in the collection back in May. Congress did leave several items on the table for the 119th Congress to consider. There is, as previously mentioned, the Farm Bill, as well as Congress's annual spending measures. Westerman wants lawmakers to do more to address energy permitting. Congress did approve language last year modifying environmental reviews for projects, but Westerman wants more done to expedite this process.
These are the environmental laws that were well-meaning when they're put in place, but the legal system, I guess I should just say lawyers, have figured out how to manipulate these laws to stop things from happening.
Senator Tom Cotton of Little Rock is planning to push for upwards of $100 billion in the new year for long-term munition investments. The senator says the recent defense authorization measure did not do enough to ensure the country has the necessary weapons and systems.
These are not untested weapons. They're not weapons that are still in the design phase. This is simply a manufacturing capacity problem.
None of these ideas will become law if the new Congress cannot pass legislation. Republicans will have slim majorities starting in January, making scenes like what we saw last week in the House more concerning. Womack on if what happened with the continuing resolution package is a sign of things to come.
I do think that there will be some moments ahead, and that's going to be a little easier with the Senate and the White House in our fold, but there will be moments ahead where there will be differing of opinions and hard feelings, but much like what we've been through here the last 48 hours, eventually you got to get to what you can actually get the votes necessary to get it across the finish line.
Lawmakers will be away from Capitol Hill until January 3rd, when the new Congress will be sworn in. They will have 2 weeks of work until Trump becomes the 47th President of the United States, with his inauguration ceremony set for January 20th. And that'll do it for this edition of Arkies in the Beltway for the week of December 22nd, 2024. We're going to be taking a break for the holidays with new episodes coming in the new year. In the meantime, you can stay up to date with all news involving Arkansas at arkansasonline.com. Special thanks, as always, to the team down in Little Rock. I'm Alex Thomas, and this has been Arkies in the Beltway. Have a great holiday season, and we'll see you in 2025.